Hey Long Walkers, today I'm going to be reviewing this review of The Long Walk by FrostyKnives13. Let me just start with, he's awesome. I love his channel. I watch a lot of his videos, but after I had read The Long Walk for the first time, I actually listened to it on Audible. Frosty Knives was one of the first reviews I listened to, and I just thought, is he making mistakes? And I kind of got motivated to listen to The Long Walk over and over and over and start documenting, taking notes, getting the exact rules. And I was just kind of fascinated that all these reviews are just filled with errors and mistakes, and I wanted to understand why. And I also wanted to see if anybody would actually discuss the rules and say it correctly, and nobody has. So nobody mentions like the 2-minute timer. Nobody makes the distinction between a courtesy warning and a penalty warning. So anyway, let's get into this.
The Long Walk is an interesting story. The Bachman books are interesting in and of themselves because, unlike the works of Stephen King, the Bachman books, with the exception of Thinner, don't deal with the supernatural.
That's not true. The Long Walk actually has 2 instances where Stebbins reads Garrity's mind. Here are the excerpts. His half-dozing mind began to slip away from him. Random thoughts began to chase each other lazily across its field. He remembered his mother singing him an Irish lullaby when he was very small. Something about cockles and muscles alive-o, and her face so huge and beautiful, like the face of an actress on a movie screen, wanting to kiss her and be in love with her for always. When he grew up, he would marry her. And then later, Stebbins says, when he's talking about he wants to see Jan, he makes this crack. It's really your mother you want to see anyway. Garrity recoiled sharply. What? Aren't you going to marry her when you grow up, Garrity? That's what most little boys want. You're crazy. Am I? Yes. So, and now there was a second instance where Stebbins read Garrity's mind. They were changing roads. The old one met the new one at a right angle, and another main turnpike sign announced Old Town was a mere 16 miles away. Garrity felt a tentative feeler of excitement, maybe even pride. After Old Town, he knew the route. He could have traced it on the palm of his hand. And then Stebbins replies, maybe it's your edge. I don't think so, but maybe it is. Garrity jumped. It was as if Stebbins had pried the lid on his mind and peeked down inside. What? It's your country, isn't it? And they go on to talk, and there's no mention of, hey, you read my mind, but he did. So those are 2 examples.
The walk has been going on for something like 17, 20 years.
So we don't know how long the Long Walk has been going on. This is the only thing we know. Here's the excerpt. We're going to make it into Massachusetts, I think, McVree said sickly. Stebbins nodded. The first walk to do it in 17 years. They'll go crazy. So all we know is that the Long Walk has been going on for at least 17 years, if not more. So you can't say 17 to 20 because we just don't know. We just don't know.
There is a contest that is held annually, and it is called the Long Walk. And it's 100 walkers. They're all male, and they're all generally late teens, early 20s. And they enter this contest for the prize. And the prize is anything, whatever the winner wants for the rest of his life. That's the prize. And so they have to go on this long walk, and they have to maintain a speed of 4 miles an hour. If they drop below 4 miles an hour, they get a warning. And then after 3 warnings, three warnings that they get, it's 3 and you're out. And on the 4th, they get what is called a ticket. They get ticketed. And you don't find out until a little bit later in the book that that basically means they get shot in the head and killed.
Okay. There's a lot wrong with this. Let's start with, he says ages are late teens, early 20s. Here's an excerpt. It's actually 13 to 18. They were pleased and proud because most of the kids in the country were over 12, take the test, but only 1 in 50 passes. So over 12, 13 and up. Now you think 13 and up, okay, they can be 40, 50 years old, but no. Here's another excerpt. They passed a milk truck parked at the head of a small dirt feeder road. The milkman was sitting on the hood. He waved good-naturedly. Go to it, boys. Garrity felt angry, felt like yelling. Why don't you just get up off your fat ass and go with us? But the milkman was past 18. In fact, he looked past 30. He was old. So two separate excerpts, you put it together, 13 to 18 is the age range. Now, he said they have to go on this long walk. It's a lottery. It's optional. And, in fact, if you get picked, you can back out. He says they get a prize. They also get money. So a lot of people fail to mention the money. You get a prize and money. They don't mention how much, but it's obviously a large sum. He said they must maintain a speed of 4 miles per hour. Well, a lot of people say that. You have to maintain 4 or greater miles per hour, or your timer counts down, and nobody ever mentions the 2-minute timer. That's where your warnings come in every 30 seconds that you are below 4 miles per hour. Your timer, your 2-minute timer. I call it the death timer. And we'll look at some excerpts, but let's move on. He says 3 and they're out. A lot of people say 3 warnings and they get their ticket. But then he goes on to correct himself. On the 4th warning, there's really no warning. They get a ticket. And he says they get shot in the head. They actually get shot in the heart, in the gut, like lots of different places. So not just in the head. Let me read some 4 different excerpts discussing the 2-minute timer. I think Garrity says this, even when you're walking with no warnings, there's only 2 minutes between you and the inside of a cemetery fence. Then at the start, I think Olson was talking about this kid that died at the starting line, pointing to this thing by the stone post. He says, kid was so scared and he just froze up at 9 o'clock. Just couldn't move. He took his 3 warnings, and then at 9:02 a.m., they gave him his ticket. So, 2 minutes. And then he was being second warned, but of course he was beyond hearing. And when his 2 minutes were up, they shot him like a dog. And finally, I think McVries is saying this to Garrity, 2 minutes you'll have to see her. He's talking about his girlfriend Jan. Unless you should miss her in the crowd. So he's basically saying, you get there and your timer is at 120. You can stop, and you basically get close to 2 minutes to meet with your girlfriend. And you could, because if you go an hour without getting a warning, you make up an hour. You make up a warning, sorry. And that just means your timer gets reset back to one of those thresholds, 60, 90, or 120. So you could stop and lie down, sit, rest, stand, do whatever you want for nearly 2 minutes every 3 hours. So, and people say you've got to keep going, you can't stop to poop or pee or this or that. No, you can stop, but just for short periods of time. Almost 2 minutes. 2 minutes, you're dead.
It's insinuated in the book that not many people there haven't been a lot of winners of the walks, and most of the people who have won the walks haven't lived much longer than the end of the walk. So not many people got the prize, which is whatever you want for the rest of your life, because most people who win the walk die shortly thereafter, within days or weeks of winning, because of the toll that it took on their bodies and their minds and their spirits and their psyches. So why are they doing it?
Okay, so we only know of one guy that died shortly after. There's no implication in the book that most of the winners die shortly after they finish. Let me read you the excerpt. We go right down the main drag. It used to be Lisbon Street, but now it's Cotter Memorial Avenue. Reggie Cotter was the only guy from Maine to ever win the long walk. It happened a long time ago. Now we don't know what long time ago means. He died, didn't he? Baker said. Yeah, he hemorrhaged in one eye and finished the walk half blind. It turned out he had a blood clot in his brain. He died a week or so after the walk. And in a feeble effort to remove the onus, Garrity repeated, "It was a long time ago." So that's it. We're not told that most of the walkers die, so that's a bit of an exaggeration. But one guy died shortly after from the walk itself, from the injuries.
Every morning they get a little food pack, and they get a canteen of water, whatever they want it, and they can bring anything they want on the walk.
So two things. He said they get a little food pack. They actually get a food belt, which has protein concentrates, maybe some kind of, it's like a NASA tubes, that the food that the NASA maybe eats, these tubular foods of turkey paste, tuna paste, beef paste, pork paste. It says on the tube what it is, and but they also, beyond that, beyond their canteens of purified water, they also get various other things, maybe peanut butter, crackers, chocolate. They just get kind of random other little foods just to give them those comforts. Now, he also said they can bring anything they want. It's a bit of an exaggeration. Anything like weapons, samurai sword, gun, knife. Nobody can bring any of that. Also, with medicines, stimulants to keep yourself awake, prevent muscle cramps, perhaps. Give yourself some performance boost in some way, maybe some speed. Take some kind of medicine so that you're numb to the pain. None of that. I don't think any of that is allowed. So, and there's probably a huge list of banned items. And in fact, for the fun of it, I've created some fan fiction. I have the Walker's rule book, which contains the things you can and cannot bring. And I've also got the Spectator guide. So check that out. I've got links in the description.
People watch the long walk. It's televised. People bet on who they think is going to win. People bet on who they think is going to die.
So it is televised, but from Augusta on. Here's the excerpt. And there's continuous TV coverage from Augusta. The long walk is the national pastime, after all. And he mentioned they bet on who's gonna die, who's gonna win. We don't know that. All we know is that there's a certain amount gambled on the long walk each year. That's it for now, long walkers. If you want to see more reviews of reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you later.